My scans indicate that this is a high-risk area, mainly on account of it being a tyrannosaur's nest. Oh my.
Happy birthday! Robinson the Journey is a 2016 VR puzzle platformer by Crytek and the final form of the Return to Dinosaur Island free demo series, which I have previously covered on this channel. I told y'all I'd cover it. Originally released on the PlayStation 4 for PSVR but eventually ported to PC VR, Robinson set a high bar early for what both VR and dinosaur games could be. Unfortunately, its age in the timeline of VR shows greatly, leading it to being one of the more frustrating experiences I've had with the system. Still, some unfortunate design choices aside, it was one of the most awe-inspiring games I've ever played. You play as Robin, a young boy whose colonization ship landed on a planet filled with wildlife that greatly resembled that of prehistoric Earth. With the help of his futuristic robot companion and a recently hatched Tyrannosaurus, Robin must survive the hostile environment and figure out if any other humans survived the crash. As the game goes on, we learn more about not just the immediate landscape, but events that led to the ship crashing from orbit. Despite what the trailers imply, this game is not what I would call an action game, even within the realm of VR. The game has a mostly linear story with an emphasis on exploration and platforming. One could definitely see the connections to Dinosaur Island and The Climb, as many assets and gameplay mechanics are shared between the series. However, I will say now that Robinson is distinctively less polished than the latter. That in mind, I'm going to dive right into the story and individual sections now. If you are new to the channel, I like to cover games beat by beat, so y'all can feel the experience along with me. I'll be giving full but mostly linear spoilers, so if you are able to play the games and want to, simply take note of your chapter or timestamp, pause the video, play the game, and come back to compare notes. I love hearing everyone's experiences with the games I cover, as I feel getting several perspectives to everything is important, and it's always fun to learn about something you may have missed. I also want to give an additional disclaimer and apology. With this being early VR, my ability to record this game was limited to say the least. I tried every method under the sun and then some, but found that none of them were ideal. I know there is magically perfect footage of this game out there on a couple channels, but I tried several weeks to do the same with no luck. I've also tried to contact these channels a few times in the past with no luck as well. This, unfortunately, compounds the problem of translating perspective between mediums. I cannot express how life-changingly real it feels to be in VR. Obviously, with the headsets, wires, and non-photorealistic graphics, VR isn't mistakable to the real thing, but experiencing a massive dinosaur in VR is a completely different experience to a dinosaur on a screen. Its presence, movement around you, sheer one-to-one scale, all comes together into an insane experience in VR that simply cannot be expressed by a 2D YouTube video. And that's fine. There are a lot of games I'd rather play on a monitor. But if you've never experienced VR before, a lot of what I am about to say will sound exaggerated, but I assure you it is not. You might look at Laika and go, she's cute, but kind of lame. But in the game, she is right there. In the flesh, baby dinosaur. And not a small one either. What I am using too many words to say is that watching this video and playing the actual games are wholly different experiences due to the medium difference alone. I humbly request you forgive my poor footage and seemingly extreme reactions and opinions on specific elements of the game. Thank you. The moment you start up the game, it'll probably be so low resolution you can't see. Don't panic. Just go to the options and up the resolution scale. Unfortunately, it is lower than normal quality even at twice the resolution, but we'll take what we can get. With that out of the way, you can take a good look at future Earth below you. It looks great, with the night lights turning on and off as the planet rotates, and rings of satellites and space debris. Hovering above the Earth, we see a space station, which is likely on the larger side. This is the colony ship Esmeralda, which is not a name you should give a ship given the original character's fate. Either way, this is a nice space to figure out your bearings and test your VR equipment. When you are ready, aim your face towards the play symbol and press a button. Yeah. While we are thankfully now able to use proper VR movement controllers in the PC version, the game shows its relative age by supporting Xbox controllers and having you navigate menus with your nose. Nothing awkward about that. Oh well, let's start a new game. We start with some static images telling us the backstory. Non-interactable cutscenes in VR is still something games are trying to figure out, so using 2D images or movies is the standard for the most part. As cool as seeing an exploding spaceship would be, I find it 100% understandable we start out with these instead. All we are told for now is that while orbiting an unexplored but habitable planet, the colony ship explodes. A boy survives landing on the planet in an escape pod, but he is not alone.
Higgs, take a look at this.
My scans indicate that this is a high-risk area, mainly on account of it being a tyrannosaur's nest. Oh my.
She's cute.
That is a vicious predator. I know what you're thinking. No X.
I think I'll call her Leica.
Good morning, Robin.
Welcome home. Despite the rough backstory, the game itself mainly takes place in the area immediately around Robin's escape pod. With that in mind, we've been stranded on the planet for a little over a year now.
How long have we been on this planet now?
385 days.
And several biomes meet up not far away. Robin seems to have set up a pretty pleasant living space, and with the companionship of Leica and his personal helper bot Higgs, he has successfully entered the Thrive stage of survival. Sorry if you were hoping for a survival crafting experience. That's all been figured out off screen. It does mean that there is plenty to look at though. In fact, I would say this game was tailor-made for the virtual tourist. The game is packed with detail and set pieces. For example, the amount of visual storytelling in the escape pod is worth taking notes on. Everything either has obvious purpose or helps illustrate Robin's experience on the planet so far. There's a shelf of non-perishable foods, a desk littered with items and tinkerings, giant nutrient juice canisters with straws sticking out of them, samples of the local fruit, and even a nautilus chilling in a helmet-turned fishbowl. And none of it is interactable. This probably doesn't seem like a big deal to most, but my fellow VR players just flinched. Due to a mix of the 3D immersion and the widget games that dominate the VR market right now, there is an inherent need to interact with things with your hands while in VR. You see an object on a desk, and most VR games will let you pick up that item or at least poke it. But not Robinson. I don't personally hold this against the game, as it isn't right to hold games to unofficial standards. But it's a common complaint with the game, and it needed mentioning. I'll admit that I punched my hand through random items often in a failed attempt to pick them up. Anyway, following the instructions of Higgs, we mess with a few items in the pod, like the useless emergency radio and panic instructions.
This is pod 3091659, broadcasting on all frequencies. If there are any other survivors out there, let me know. Higgs is getting pretty lonely.
I know there's never been a response in over a year, but you really should take this seriously.
When satisfied, you can leave by giving up control of your hand to open the door.
Still standing, even after a year. Can you believe we used to live on that ship? Hurtling through the stars at 67 million miles per hour, until she was a magnificent ship, wasn't she?
Other people must have got off as well. How long until we find them, Higgs?
You've done extremely well to survive this long. Others might not be so resourceful.
The area immediate to Robin's pod is a great introduction to the world and gameplay mechanics. It's also, unfortunately, the least interesting location of the game. With us perched near a cliff, we get a good view of the spaceship's wreckage, as well as a decent idea of its scale. The Flappy Boys are back from the Dinosaur Island demos, and are notably identical to their initial design, which can't be said about any other returning species. Closer to the cliffside is our SOS, as seen from above in the game's trailer. It's made up of spare clothes and empty water canisters. You can fix up the scarecrow, replace your pee bucket, shoot some hoops, and a bunch of other little things for achievements. The first couple of areas of the game in particular are full of random things to do. A little distraction or two doesn't hurt, but at the moment it's keeping us away from the dinosaurs. Near the pod is a stream. You can catch fish in a bunch of different ways here, but more importantly, this is where we've set up our mini hydroelectric engine.
You see here, the water turbine's clogged. That's the cause of the power outage. All that roughhouse dinosaur play, it must have tipped these barrels into the water.
This is where we introduce the levitation mechanic. While you can't pick up items with your hands, you can use our little science wand to lift and manipulate things. It's finicky, to say the least. And your ability to use it is so situational that it'd be weird if you didn't forget it between puzzles. In the cases where you are using levitation to attach items to other items, you'll want to place the item where you want it and then let go of the button. It should snap in place, and it's much easier than holding the levitation and hoping it attaches that way. For now, use it to unclog the turbines.
Excellent, we have power. But I can see now that the circuits need repairing too. Oh, wonderful. I can actually help you with that.
Selecting Higgs will lift up the camera to this diorama-like view. Despite looking like a separate instance of miniatures, the environment does react to the locations of non-static items and Robin. It's neat, to say the least, but again, it's so situational you'll forget it's even a thing until the game reminds you.
Ah, so good to feel useful. The power should be flowing perfectly now. The wicks will be back online.
Both exits out of the area are guarded by these fence spots. One way out is blocked due to the high risk of danger.
Robin, I wouldn't get too close to that fence, especially when you look, edible.
While the other is on active alert thanks to some harmless Capriosaurus. Capriosaurus are original to the game and have no direct real-life counterpart name-wise, but it's clear their design is inspired by Dryosaurus and similarly small ornithopods. Despite them fleeing from us whenever we approach later in the game, these two like the taste of our dirt so much they're not willing to move.
Move! Shoo! Go away! Why won't you listen to me? These dinosaurs are causing the gate to lock. The gate won't open until those animals move.
We might need to get some help with this. Good thing we have a pet dinosaur.
Maybe your pet could be of some use for a change.
Laika has grown a bit since the prologue, and she's easily retrieved from her sleeping cave beyond our pod. She's adorable, right? We can even dress her up.
Laika, stay.
In an odd moment of the story overriding Higgs' established personality, he pushes the player to play hide-and-seek with Laika using the tablet superglued to the tree. In fact, he gets downright annoying about it. I'm used to VR constantly nagging me to continue the story, but for such an open exploration game to do it too is a little upsetting. Either way, activating the tablet sets Laika off to hide while we count at the tree.
9, 8, 7,
That's cheating.
6...
Laika is in immediate eyesight, but when we approach, it's clear she's been distracted.
What is it back there? That is a Higgs unit. Get your pet away from him before some serious damage is done. There's precious data in there. We should scan it immediately, Robin.
Our multi-tool is capable of scanning objects, and honestly, this is the best mechanic of the game. Using the tool to aim, you need to trace over green dots on an object or animal while avoiding any red dots. By scanning something, its information is added to your infotarium, an encyclopedia accessible from your in-game menu. Some animals must be scanned multiple times with multiple individuals. Filling out the infotarium is legit a lot of fun, as scanned animals unlock a rotatable 3D model and brief text descriptions. Once fully scanned, the model will play out an animation loop, which is genuinely cool to inspect in the virtual space. While I wouldn't say this encyclopedia was worth the trouble in a normal game, in a VR game this is an excellent reward and a fun way to explore and catalog the game's world. In addition to scanning animals, you can also scan specific machines. There are communication bands scattered scattered across the place, and scanning them reveals some world building, lore, and similar information in the form of concept art and text messages from some of the starship's occupants. With one exception, the scanning of animals and communication bands are entirely optional, but I'll say now that it is the most rewarding part of the game. What isn't optional in the story is scanning this damaged Higgs unit. We extract some of his last messages.
This is a colony unit sent ahead of the Esmeralda to lay the foundations of our society, a piece of your history.
Esmeralda Command. Hello? This is Colony Higgs 11886 from the Autonomous Go-Ahead probe. I am pleased to report we have successfully reached Tyson 3. As we still haven't been in communication with you for years, we immediately initiated our own landing protocols. We have begun to build some basic structures, although there aren't any humans here to live in them yet, obviously. It's not going as well as we'd hoped. There's wildlife. It's not exactly safe on the surface, but at least the atmosphere is breathable. I don't know how long we've been here. My clocks stopped functioning. I'd send you another image of the surface, but my camera's out of commission too. Those pattern bead tube apartments you've got coming will be nice, won't they? Entertainment systems, rainforest showers, barbecues, shiny and dry Higgs docks, spare parts, and please come. We're waiting for you.
So, Higgs units, among other colony robots, were sent to the planet's surface long before the ship crash. But humans never touched down before this unit became damaged. He seems to have died before the station fell, which brings up a lot of odd questions regarding the timeline leading up to the events of the prologue.
These guys built a whole landing site. If our crew are out there, that's where they'd start the colony. These Higgs units can tell us where they are. There must be more. Let's find them.
I see. Well, the data here suggests there are 3 more nearby.
Finally, Higgs lets us scare away the little dinos and continue on. To scare away the little bros, you have to direct Laika to the gate and then command her to roar.
Go roar!
That's it. I don't like scaring the poor things, but your friend would have probably eaten them otherwise.
Commanding Laika to do anything is a bit of a process. The button combinations are not particularly natural, but the commands that matter are easy enough to remember. Still, it's never really a big deal if you give her the wrong command the first few tries. Funny enough, the game removes Laika from your side multiple times in the narrative. While the narrative definitely justifies her rare absence, it's still funny that a character with so much emphasis is shoved off screen occasionally. I really like Laika. Despite being tall enough to reach my lower stomach, she is absolutely adorable, with big baby eyes and clearly expressed emotions. Although she is called a Tyrannosaurus Rex, she and the rest of her alien species sprout dragon-like horns, and she at least expresses advanced intelligence. From what little we see, it's a safe bet that Laika will have human-level intelligence by the time she reaches adulthood, though this isn't entirely the norm for her species.
Listen to that. One day, your friend will be just like that monster out there, 4 meters tall and very hungry.
Getting close to spoilers on that, though. While we are addressing our companions, let's talk about Higgs. He appears to be either Robin's personal model or the model that came in the escape pod. Unlike other units, he doesn't have a distinctive paint job to mark his profession. He is quickly established as being clingy, and he nags the player near constantly about whatever is relevant or not to whatever the player is or isn't doing. He is, however, nowhere near as annoying as the pop-up tutorial messages in the center of the screen, so you learn to appreciate him over the text messages real quickly. What I had a problem with most of the game is his clear dislike of Laika. Literally every chance he gets, he attacks her character, and it made me legitimately think he would turn evil or do something awful for the sake of Robin. Thankfully, his dislike of Laika is instead the beginning of a simple but appreciated character arc. By the end of the game, I decided that I don't really dislike him, and understood his presence was vital to Robin's long-term survival, even if only in the story. The various locations of the game are connected by the canyon. The canyon is more of a crevice, but it's oftentimes beautiful with its shadowed lighting and small caves. It's also filled to the brim with small creatures to scan, ranging from off-brand birds to limbed snakes to, oh my god, that is a huge caterpillar. It's nice for taking a breath between levels and figuring out what to do next. I will say that there is a lot of noises from all the animals being so close together, but nothing is directly screaming at you here, so it's still calmer than some of the other locations. For now, we'll be using the canyon to go where the game wants us to. The farm.
The farm would be in much better condition if those confounded pterosaurs hadn't started roosting on the cliffside. Mischievous pests.
Well, despite being called the farm, it's more accurately called the treehouse. A rather nice platform, complete with zip lines, sits in a large tree. A nearby cliff edge reveals that we aren't far from home, and a large chunk of the Esmeralda lays across the land just inland, creating a framework canopy. You can immediately tell this is where Robin spends his waking hours rather than back near the pod. Unfortunately, the local pterosaurs have been bad neighbors lately, destroying multiple structures both here and back on the cliffside. Like the pod area, there's a lot of little things to do and mess with. You can play around with some blocks for an achievement, play some now optional hide and seek with Laika, or most practically, become acquainted with the climbing mechanics of the game. You can practice nearly everything climbing related here, and you should probably become comfortable with all of it before progressing too much further in the game. The game also wants you to try everything out, as we need to address the pterosaurs giving us grief. When you approach the treehouse, a small pterosaur holding what appears to be a Higgs unit core is up on the platform, but once Robin makes it up too, the pterosaur flies off to a nest in the nearby rock walls. We try to follow him, but a piece of debris is in the way. To clear it with levitation, we need to juice up our multi-tool via a nearby power relay. Unfortunately, the power is out in the area. Apparently, the flying reptiles have damaged our homemade wind turbine, which had miraculously powered the entire area prior. We climb up the cliff, hunt down the damaged pieces, repair the windmill, and have Higgs reroute the power. That was a whole lot of mess to clean up, but it all serves as an introduction to climbing. And now, we'll test what we learned. We can now levitate the debris out of the way, optionally creating a teeter-totter for Laika, and climb our way up to wring the necks of those flying assholes. Climbing in this game is notably similar to its sibling game, The Climb, but it is alarmingly unpolished in comparison. Climbing itself is simple. Climbable things are marked with bright orange. Ladders, bars, and ropes work like how'd you expect. Just put one hand in front of the other. Rock walls, trees, and similar structures have orange rocks or fungus to climb up. These work like an indoor rock course, with you having to find an optimal path both in terms of progress and your physical reach. You can slide down zip lines, sliding poles, and specific ropes, and these are as simple as lining up your hands with the markers and gripping both hands at the same time. Finally, we have the ledges. The dreaded, horrible ledges. These are absolutely broken, and are my leading cause of death in this game. To climb up a ledge, you grab it with both hands and have to imitate the motion of climbing up. The problem is that if Robin's body is clipping through the floor in any way, the game will reject the forward motion of the action and drop you like a brick to free fall off of whatever you just climbed up. Look, there is even fan art depicting this issue. I eventually figured out a dependable-ish way to get this mechanic to work, but it involves touching the floor and doing a full body leap upward and a downward thrust. It's not fun. Speaking of glitches while climbing, there was a decent chance that whenever I grabbed something, the game would throw a fit and rotate me into the wall, killing me. It meant that every time I wanted to climb something, I had to reset my view angle back to the default. This is probably a bug of the same lock-on system that occurs when you want to climb down from a ledge. You are expected to get close to the ledge and then grip with both hands. This teleports and rotates you to where you are gripping the edge. While I understand you can only do so much in VR for something like this method is jarring and wholly unpleasant in VR. I know I just complained heavily against the climbing system of this game, but it's honestly better than what I was expecting. Still, I had a much better experience with the climb, and I wish the two games had more similarities between the systems. Oh, and in case you've played The Climb, Robinson does not have a stamina, hand power, or leaping system. With having figured out our climbing abilities, we monkey on over to the pterosaur nest. It's poorly constructed and built on loose ship debris.
Destroy the nest, Robin. You won't seriously harm them, but you will send them a message.
Pulling a few chunks out of it with our levitation tool destroys it enough to convince the flying Screamy to settle onto a ground nest instead. Be careful not to get too close to it, or it'll fly back up and you'll have to climb and destroy the nest all over again. Instead, have Laika roar at it from a distance.
Roar! 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 Do it again! Do it again! Roar! Oh, I enjoyed that.
This Higgs unit was a crew unit, and the information we scan from it reveals a major clue of why the Esmeralda met her doom.
Command, Crew Higgs 60322 on patrol. There have been reports of flagrant law-breaking in Columbus section. Entering Columbus Mess Hall 3. I can confirm there is a Magellan crew member here. It's Jimmy Lawrence again, Commander. He's taken 3 food trays. You there, get back to Magellan. That food doesn't belong to you. There's only sufficient supplies for Columbus crew members to receive a full ration. He's poured his coffee all over the food. He's just smiling at me. Now he's eating the food with his cup. I confronted crew member Lawrence, Command. He's being pig-headed. I'm in pursuit, tailing him through Columbus. Put it on record that he's insubordinate. He shouted, "Screw the mission." He expressed dissatisfaction that he would never make it to Tyson 3 and was not permitted children, so why should he have to suffer to the benefit of others? He says he plans to enjoy life now, and, I quote, "To hell with Tyson 3. Command, I've followed Lawrence back to Magellan. I must say I don't much like it here. The people look at me like I am prey. I can imagine them tearing me apart to find something valuable they could trade for food. I could almost imagine them trying to eat me. They do look hungry. I wish we could make an arrest, but you are right. We can't risk civil disorder. We don't want to make this Lawrence fellow a martyr.
Oh, yeah, that's more than a little fucked. The Esmeralda had a purposely implemented caste system, with colonists being housed in the high-quality Columbus module and everyone else in the overcrowded Magellan module. The Magellans were not allowed to have children and would not live to see touchdown, leading to growing resentment. Yeah. Needless to say that if inequality between organically forming classes causes civil unrest, deliberately establishing inequality in things as basic as food rationing is just asking for an anarchistic revolution. Obviously, some things don't entirely add up yet. Why would the lower class agree to joining the mission if neither they nor their kids would get anything out of it? Why was such idiotic class division even planned? Is their rationing really so bad that someone felt the need to rebel so blatantly? Clearly, we need more answers, and those lie with the other Higgs units.
Times were desperate after the deep space event. It nearly destroyed us. We couldn't live as we had before it. Some had to do without. Those whose children wouldn't make it to Tyson 3 suffered terribly. Thankfully, they stopped the madness, but people weren't comfortable working together after that. We didn't realize it, but the colony mission was in jeopardy. You were Columbus crew, of course, selected for your genes. You are a born survivor, Robin.
Well, that gives us hints rather than answers. It's clear our characters know more than the audience, but there's still a lot of things we need answers for. Oh, and the class system is based directly on genetics and breeding. Oh, no. Yeah, we need more info, as both Higgs and Robin are alarmingly okay with the information we've been given so far. Either way, with our terrible neighbors dealt with, we can reroute the power to the Growbot and get ourselves a treat.
Now, don't waste all that food getting that creature to perform party tricks.
And by that, I mean a treat for Laika. We will promptly forget that this is a thing. Heading out from the farm, Higgs will suggest we stay somewhere it's safe. But this is a video game, so we promptly venture into danger without hesitation. The jungle area is rather beautiful, with light shining in from above the canopy. We establish very quickly that this place is dangerous.
Raptors. That was sarcasm.
Well, at least it is trying to convince you it is dangerous.
Luckily they can't get up here, otherwise you'd both be lunched by now.
These raptors of Jurassic Park 3 flavor are currently incapable of reaching you. It's a little hard to believe they can't grab you, either by climbing or running around, but I will admit it's fun to get your head way too close to their strike range. They will continue to nip at your heels as you cross the bridge leading up to the tree, which means our only direction forward is up. Thankfully, the trees are lined with conveniently placed climbable fungus and vines, all of which have been splashed with orange paint. Climbing up to the nearest ridge, we get a good look at some canopy wreckage. Higgs scan indicates that this is an escape pod and its unit has been removed. In other words, there is another Higgs unit in the jungle to find. The immediate problem is that there is unopened fungus on the tree ahead, and we need to open it before we can climb it. Well, despite there being no indication as such, the debris above us has trapped water, and pulling some pieces loose will douse the fungus open. Will we ever use this watering mechanic again? No. Will the fungus stay open? Also no. The newly opened fungus and several like it will open and close on a timer. Climbing up the tree more, the level's path splits two ways. One way travels into and up a hollow trunk, and the other travels out to an open space in the center of the area. We'll travel into the open space first and loop back around to the trunk.
Amazing. You think they might be carnivorous?
Check out this gorgeous space. Even with the low for VR resolution, this is absolutely gorgeous. The light flooding through the cracks in the canopy to set rays onto the branch as butterflies fly about. It's imagery like this that makes me want to just lie down and enjoy the view until I pass out. It's the type of visuals that stick with you a bit after the game, and this isn't the only example of that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The butterflies are actually a simple matching game. Select butterflies with your laser pointer and match them to make them fly away to return to their home planet. It's entirely optional, but short side diversions only add to a game like this. Climbing up to the next branch, we are met by what looks like figs swarming with wasps.
My, do you think they are bees or wasps? I can't imagine it's good news either way.
Thankfully, fig wasps don't sting, and the inventarium says they're dragonflies anyway. So, let's slide down.
Did you even look before grabbing that? Dodge!
Fuck you, bees!
Oh, good. A herbivore. He is big, though.
This next branch brings us right up to the face of a browsing sauropod. Simply named longnecks by the game, the sauropods most closely resemble giant brachiosaurs. The sheer size of these things is intimidating, and it's difficult to illustrate that from a 2D screen. I would say this one is closer to a large whale than a brachiosaur in size, if that helps any. Either way, he seems to be blocking our path. Offering him some nearby food rations doesn't interest him, and in a fun little reference, he'll sneeze on you if you hit him with it.
These are gentle creatures, Robin. I don't think throwing food at them is the answer.
What we need to do instead is knock down one of the fruits hanging nearby. They literally glow.
Good. On we go.
Now we can walk by him, and I cannot express how cool it is to be up close to this thing. Following the path around, we loop up to the tree we need. At the top, we can find the unit's casing, but the core is missing. Well, the core is being held by a family of nearby pangolins. Scan them open to reveal the core.
Why is everything in this jungle so vicious? It must have ripped the poor thing apart.
Hello? Command? This is Higgs Unit 96450 Science Division. I've survived an unexpected planetary descent, but with significant systems impairment. I seem to have landed in a seasonal tropical rainforest. Do you read me? Well, I'd better transmit the data anyway, because this is amazing. Look at all this life. We had no idea there would be creatures as evolved as this on Tyson 3. My database might be as dysfunctional as my flight system. What's that? Oh my! Lucky some of my flight motors are still operational. That monster is... No. It can't be. I'm still cross-referencing my database to confirm its integrity, but that is... And I'm sure of this. A velociraptor from Earth's Cretaceous period. Flight systems. Down. Connections. Down. Still, this has been the most exciting day in my personal operating history. What's that? Oh, here. That doesn't look like it's a danger to me. Wait. Ah! Oh, what's it? No! 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 Get! Oh! Ah! Oh! Get off! Get off! Ah! No! 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 No!
That science Higgs didn't even last the night. And I'm no closer to finding other survivors.
Not every Higgs unit is as capable as me.
Scanning the core doesn't give us any major clues to the story, but it details the events leading up to the unit's death. He is a science model and was scouting the new environment when he was attacked by a raptor. He managed to get away but was so damaged that a pangolin was able to pry his core loose, finishing him off. I have to say, I feel we could fix some of these Higgs units with a bit of tinkering, which we know Robin can do. Although, considering how we treat the cores we already had at the start of the game, such as one we converted into a chew toy for Laika, they're probably better off dead. One more fig vine?
Lean out the way. Carry on this way.
And we're back to the hollowed out tree. Addressing the hollow real quick, its walls are covered in vines and a center branch covered in pangolins sprouts from the center. It's quite the beautiful set piece, though I can't help but point out that the outer tree is definitely dead with this big of a chunk missing. Using it to climb back down a bit, we can slide down a vine back to the entrance of the area.
She didn't forget about you. Surprising, but sweet.
Going down the other path in the canyon will take us to the tar pits. This area, although a bit more gloomy, is also incredibly beautiful. This isn't thanks mainly to the mood lighting and the silhouette of the many sauropods and pterosaurs in the area. The trees are tall and have an ashy look to them. They might be the most alien thing in this game. An old gray pterosaur rests from the top of a tree as rivers of liquid tar cascade down the mountains. Clouds frame the sunrise, lighting the tops of the massive life forms standing tall in the gloom. Frogs, eels, and insects adapted to the tar give us plenty to scan in this area, and mushrooms take hold on the few rocky islands we can traverse. I understand it would provide protection from predators, but this must be the most watered-down tar in the history of fiction. It's still deadly to us.
Robin, no!
But the local wildlife really shouldn't be taking a spa day in it. I wonder if at some point in production this place was filled with liquid mud, which would be far more realistic. But they decided it was too unfortunate looking to keep. That, or there is a cultural association we have that states dinosaurs always lived near hot tar and lava. We used to breed a hop between the islands, passing a young sauropod as we do. Compared to the verticality of the jungle, the tar pits are significantly easier to traverse. Some of the larger dinosaurs will block our path, but we can command Laika to scare them away with a roar.
Very good.
We eventually find the Higgs unit.
A construction Higgs. It'll have some interesting data, and it was surprisingly easy to get to.
You just had to jinx it, didn't you? Climbing up to get closer to the bull's face, the rock platform is littered with the same juice boxes we saw back at Robin's pod. We try to offer them to the beast, but he isn't interested. Instead, we need to use our Higgs to fix the electricity in the area. This will activate a dispenser which will drop out an orange-colored juice box.
Let's see if it likes the fruit. I thought so, it was the color.
In return for feeding him his daily dose of artificial citrus concentrate, the dinosaur will drop the construction robot. It's severely damaged, but a scan will reveal some more information about the crash.
Construction Higgs Unit 7238 reporting.
Commander Hamilton addressing you directly. We have experienced a Class Alpha deep space event. We don't know what it was. That's why we're bringing you online. You will take charge.
Is the damage internal or external?
External. The main engines went offline briefly, so you'll need to investigate that, but we have zero functionality from our outboard systems. We received a message of Earth origin just before the wave of destruction hit.
Engines are sub-functional. We can still reach Tyson 3, but it will take significantly longer. Deceleration will be especially impacted. Was there anything in that message from Earth to warn us about the event?
No, there was nothing. Can't even be sure it was from Earth, but it was Earth data, all right. Packets checked out. Handshake protocols were different, but you'd expect that. We've been in space nearly a century now, but we know our protocols. This comes from a different source. You need to go outside. We need our comm systems back online. We need to get back in contact with Earth, with Tyson 3. We need to get the rest of that message.
It's bad, Commander. Structural damage is minimal, but the exterior of the ship has been electronically sandblasted. We're never getting comms back online without a complete ship refit. But it gets worse. Our life support systems are falling off a cliff. Solar panels, heat exchange tiles, waste recycling, air filters, anything with a connection to the outside is wiped. I think we can get some functionality back, but it will cost us. Life on the Esmeralda is going to be different from now on. Life's going to get tough.
Interesting. About a century into the Esmeralda's voyage, data was sent from Earth to the ship. The information is suspicious and did not seem to include any warnings. Shortly after, an unknown disaster struck the Esmeralda, greatly damaging many systems. The ship could reach Tyson 3, but it would take significantly longer and they would have significantly less supplies. This explains why they set up the class system mentioned before. The ideal colonization candidates were given the expected amount of food and luxuries, while everyone else was given less portions, and were stripped of multiple rights, including the right to procreate. This still leaves a lot of questions in the air, but it does paint a clear picture of growing unrest leading up to planetfall. Either way, we have run out of Higgs units to hunt down.
Let's go back home. Rescue might still come. It's just a matter of waiting.
Going back the way we came, we return home. When we arrive home, something seems to be amiss. The other gate has been destroyed, and Laika is nowhere to be seen.
What? You're going through there after your pet? What about the fence?
We give chase and... Hold up. There is a massive sinkhole 5 feet away from camp? We have a pit of death on our front lawn? Now I know why we have the second gate. There is no way in hell Laika somehow crossed that gap.
Typical.
How? I know she's baby-sized, but she still has tiny-ass arms. She ain't a spider monkey, she's a space Rex. Alright, fine. Crossing the gap is more than a little terrifying. No thanks in small part to the giant pterosaur who flies up on us from below halfway through.
Still holding on. Finally mentioned how much I know those beasts.
Reaching the other side is worth it though, as it opens up a new area to explore.
We've taken a turn back towards the tar pit. Keep an eye out for longnecks.
We could have taken an early look from above at these lower cliffs if we had looked down from the tar pits. We've also been here before, and a nearby crevice is Laika's old nest. But a little further ahead is Laika herself.
Don't worry, girl. You're fine, I'm here.
Well done, Robin. You've impressed me again with your adventuring. But now we've got your pet, I think it's time we head straight back home.
But suddenly...
Look! Your pet knows that roar. It might be the same Tyrannosaur that killed its family.
I'm sorry, what?
Stay inside, Robin! It's a stampede. Okay, it's a very slow stampede, but still extremely dangerous given how incredibly big their feet are.
Hold up, game. You can't just assume we know something like this. Are we going to show these events at any point? No? Then what? As cool as the sauropod stampede is, we are expected to sit it out. It has, however, shown us where a surprise Higgs unit is.
Well, look at that. An emergency Higgs unit.
Do you think Laika meant to lead us here? I bet this has the information I want.
Your pet? She's just an animal. I doubt it.
This emergency unit sheds some light on what happened shortly after we reached Tyson's orbit.
Emergency Higgs 96450 reporting. Typical. The biggest emergency in over 50 years and I've lost connection.
This is your captain speaking. As many of you already know, a small group of crew have commandeered Escalar 3. This is mutiny. We operate this ship as a democracy, and starting the colonization process is irreversible. This is not a decision a minority can make. Shuttle Escalar 3, we've received reports of unauthorized access to your flight systems.
You forced us to this, Captain. We've overridden the controls. We're going to launch.
As I told the crew, we are a democracy. You have no right to start the colonization process.
We don't know when or if any other humans will ever follow us. We have a whole planet right here to make our own. That's our birthright. Uncouple us so we can launch.
We don't know what's down there. You are being a damn fool.
I'm starting ignition anyway.
Do not launch. I will not uncouple.
5, 4, 3.
As your commander, I beg you to stand down. I won't release your ship. You launch it.
Command, this is Emergency Higgs 96450. I've been ejected into space. I took...
Corrupted holographic data.
So, shortly after they reached Tyson, the crew of the Esmeralda voted to orbit rather than land, in hopes a supply rescue would be sent from Earth. Several of the starving lower class commandeered a scouting ship with the intent to land on the moon and begin colonization. While this is a brash and overall terrible plan, they were also starving to death on the Esmeralda, so they probably would have had a better chance trying to survive on the moon in the end. The scouting ship was coupled to the Esmeralda, and the deserters needed the Esmeralda's captain to free them. Well, both sides tried to call the other's bluff, but neither side was bluffing. The scouting ship took off while still attached to the Esmeralda, wrecking both. The scouting ship was obliterated while the massive Esmeralda was split in two, launching several empty escape pods. The wreckage of the Esmeralda landed on the moon. Despite other Higgs units and pods being found, none of them were deployed with a surviving human. Robin is alone. Having solved the mystery of the Esmeralda's crash, our gang is ready to return home. Higgs even completes his character arc.
They destroyed the Esmeralda all by themselves. They never could get along. Not like us, eh, Robin? We are a close-knit family. Now, let's get that pet of yours and go home.
Just as we are ready to turn back, though, we realize a certain someone is missing.
Where is Laika?
That infernal creature! We should just leave it out here to die! Oh my. I'm sorry. That wasn't very familiar of me, was it? It's just that she's so much trouble. And it wasn't all that long ago that we had barely enough food just for you. But she's your friend. And that's important to you, isn't it? So we're going to find her, okay? And then we go home.
We follow after Laika further on ahead. We pass the frog tree and continue onward in what resembles the canyon. However, amongst the debris is a familiar danger.
Stop! Raptors! Be quiet and stay very still.
Yeah, a pack of goth kid flavored raptors have settled into this chunk of wreckage and they can kill us. Previously, there were only a couple chances for the wildlife to eat us, and they were optional and event-based. But these raptors have proper AI and will require stealth to avoid. This first raptor serves as a tutorial. Higgs will instruct us on when to move and how to distract it by throwing objects. It works about the same as a 2D game would. Keep moving even after the section ends though. If you waste too much time, the raptor will follow you.
Who am I going to look after now?
Oh god, that was terrifying. Once by, we'll reach a major section of the Esmeralda. We can see a massive gap below, as well as a spherical core of some kind. Well, if crossing the gap before was a nightmare for people afraid of heights, then this next section is their personal hell. We need to climb down to the floor level of the wreckage. And to do so, we need to monkey our way across hanging coils and loosely held sheets of metal. This also includes several moments where we need to drop down from one piece of debris to another. And even scale down the side of the core via these little nodes. Yeah, no. I'm willing to accept that every day is arm day for Robin, but no amount of exercise or genetics ideal for colonization can explain why he can climb better than Spider-Man with glue on his hands.
One of these rides again. Go ahead, do what you need to do. I suppose that was exciting.
Either way, we finally reach the bottom. Deep breath, everyone. We appear to be under the platform beneath the sphere, and so is Laika.
Are you okay? How did you get down here?
She's fine. Good. Now we can get out of here. Oh? What's that? A charging station for the planetarium. Of course. Get this planetarium online, and we would have the processing power to repair your corrupted data and the means by which to view it. What outrageous luck! Let's hope it still works.
Oh, it's a planetarium. That makes sense. Though the space used is more than a little excessive, either way, we need to repair the projector. You would think it would be a power box somewhere we need to fiddle with, but this is a video game. So, to fix the machine, we need to locate these battery ports, insert the massive batteries, and then blind ourselves on the eye scans. First one is a tutorial freebie, the others will be a much bigger pain.
Oh no, raptors again. Right, deep breath, it will be fine. They're only man-eating predators after all. We just need a plan. Okay. Here it is. Like before, we keep really quiet.
Especially since the goth kids are here too. We can find the second battery port on the inside of the ship without much hassle, but the battery requires we traverse an obvious death maze. We can see the raptor's timing through the holes in the debris, and toss items for brief distractions. But Higgs is no longer going to hold your hand here. He's just there to watch you die. Returning the way we came, we can place the battery and continue on to the next one.
Excellent. Now we have the second battery. Just one more left.
The last port is a bit out of the way. There is a bit of debris blocking the tunnel. We can climb around it, but... Despite the raptor nipping at your heels, the climb itself doesn't compare to the ordeal that was getting down here in the first place. Even after a cross, it seems the closest battery is in a storage room just out of our reach. I want to take a moment and complain that the gap here would be super easy for us, and by extension Robin, to crouch through. Just bend your knees and we'll be in business. But no, the hole-in-the-wall contestant is Laika, not us. We need to command her to grab the battery, wait 5 minutes while it takes too long for her to reach it, canceling out her command, climb back to the other side to babysit her through the process, command her to grab the battery again, and then return to where we were to finish putting the battery actually in. Simple, right?
Exceptional. That's all the batteries in place. Now we can transmit energy to this projector, get it online.
Now with the power restored, we can send Higgs to fix the cables again. Once everything is back up and running, we can take the elevator up to the final scene.
The journey will begin shortly. Please take your seats.
That'll take a while to process. The journey must be beginning. Have you seen this before?
Please welcome your VIP guest for tonight, Robin Anderson. Light. We send out our brightest and most brilliant to new stars, new planets. To Tyson 3 aboard the starship Esmeralda. 3,000 souls growing with each generation. Humanity's greatest journey yet will end here, at Tyson 3, 1 century from now. We will build a new world out there. We will bring life to every corner of the universe. And we will be magnificent.
If only we could have built this. Amazing.
Believe me, Higgs, I'm going to build that city. I've got a lot of time on my hands anyway.
Don't worry, Robin. I have a plan. That wasn't my plan, exactly. Let me think. What's the only thing that will scare a Tyrannosaur? A meteor? Wait! Another Tyrannosaur! Scan Laika, now!
You called her Laika?
Of course. I'll run her scan through the projector. It'll buy us some time. No!
Let's try that again.
Scan her now, Robin! Quickly, Robin, scan her! Good work, now let's go. I think I found a way out. Over here! Quick, Robin! Ah, it's shut! Come on, let me help you. That projection won't distract him forever. If only we had a meteor. The projector. If I disable the levitation, that could work. Okay. Phew. That's a relief. He is most definitely deceased. Quite incredible what can be achieved when we put aside our little differences.
Yeah. Thanks, Higgs.
You know, they killed Laika's entire family. And now it looks like they are coming for her. Laika must pose a serious threat. If she's some kind of alpha predator, that could make her very useful if tamed, and very dangerous if not. So, you'd better make sure you train her properly then, if she's going to be a member of our little family.
What about the projector?
Oh yes, the projector. Let's get this started. Here we go.
As your commander, I beg you to stand down. I won't release your ship. You launch it. Oh God, no.
Some of the crew tried to force launch an Escaler shuttle. The explosion knocked the Esmeralda out of stable orbit.
Ready the escape pods.
The pods were disabled, sealed shut. Someone locked them down.
Why would anyone disable the escape pods? Is anyone even in them? Launch the pods manually. Do it, now!
She was forced to launch every pod.
Maybe only one will survive, but that is better than nothing. Launch!
The crew didn't make it. They're empty. All empty. Wait, there are people on that one. And more. More people escaped. I don't believe it. Look at them, falling like rain. We didn't see all the pods. It's impossible to know how many launched, but some did make it off the Esmeralda. Maybe even your parents. Of course, we don't know if they survived on the planet. I just hope they had a Higgs unit like me with them. Yes, and a pet dinosaur. Everyone needs a pet dinosaur. Let's go home, everyone.
And that was Robinson the Journey. Before calling it, let's listen to the music real quick. I'm sad to say that while beautiful, none of it particularly stands out, and it's comparable to a typical Hollywood movie soundtrack. Good, but quickly forgotten. Bit of a shame, honestly. I will say that I noticed the sinister music that would play whenever we were climbing something, but that's more because of context, if anything. I also want to take a bit of time to mention the glitches. While I wouldn't say this game is jank any more than any other VR game, it did have quite a few bugs. In addition to the climbing related glitches I mentioned previously, I have a few more to list. I had a consistent problem of textures not loading or unloading. While it was rare in the overworld, it was pretty common in the infotarium. On the farm, when I let the Growbot out, the potatoes he was holding despawned. I had to leave the area and come back for them to return. After completing the jungle, the objectives menu still said I needed to climb the first tree, and it stayed that way until endgame. And all of this was in addition to a few crashes. Between this game being a port, VR, and no longer being supported, could have definitely been worse. All in all, I really enjoyed this game. I could point out a few things like the unsolved mysteries and lack of human bodies at the crash sites, but overall, I think this is a pretty solid VR title. Laika is beyond adorable. The gameplay is easy to learn and they really experimented with it. The visuals are beyond gorgeous. The scanning and critters were fun and fascinating. And I can easily recommend this game to anyone with a compatible headset. If you want to play this game and you have a compatible headset, it is listed in the PlayStation VR, Oculus, and Steam stores. However, going from the reviews, the Oculus version is not playable anymore. It seems a headset update broke it and the Crytek devs never fixed it. Personally, I played the Steam release, which appears to be both the most complete and least stable iteration. Despite the game's unanswered questions and sequel baiting, this is the end of the Robinson and Dinosaur Island stories so far. As of me writing this, Robinson is no longer being supported, and Crytek seems preoccupied with The Climb and its sequel. Considering its origin as a tech demo though, we might see more whenever the next big technology drops. And that's about it. If you want to see my blind playthrough of the game, including several optional sections I didn't include in this review, feel free to check that out on my gameplay channel. If you've gotten this far, it would mean a lot if you liked, subscribed, left a comment, and all that jazz. It makes the effort behind these videos worth it to see everyone's opinions and experiences in the comments. Also, feel free to send this video to a dinosaur or VR nerd. They might be interested in this mostly forgotten experience. And with that, I'll call it for today. I'm gonna go now and see about adopting a pet dinosaur. Bye!